Hey guys, and welcome to a breakdown of Swagger TV series that came out, I guess, last year. We're gonna be breaking down season one, episode 1 to 10. So, I'll break down episode by episode, but I joined late and I really couldn't bother to do all of the episodes. So, we're gonna do just a whole seasonal breakdown. I'm gonna provide one or two clips for you guys as well, just to hopefully give you a bit of an idea of what's happening. But this was a great show. Okay, this is a great show, and I believe it is the creator is called Reggie Rock, and they are also backed by Kevin Durant's, I guess, kind of experience in his youth playing basketball on the AAU circuit. So Kevin Durant's kind of the inspiration for the story. Kind of, I guess, follows a bit of his life a little bit, but it's a great creative piece as well. So this particular series, I'm telling you now, guys, you need to watch this particular show because I laughed, I cried, I felt all the emotions watching this particular show. And so, this had everything in it, right? You have the action, you have the tears, you have the black experience, you have it was during COVID, there was the riot situation as well as basketball. Like if you're a fan of intriguing stories, you're a big fan of shows that are going to make you feel something, this is the kind of show you want to be in. It gave me a bit like a All American. If you watch that All American Homecoming, if you watch that kind of show with the football, it's a very similar situation with basketball, and it's a great show. The particular actors in it, we've got Isaiah R. Hill, who plays Jace Carson. We've got O'Shea Jackson. Do you know who? That's actually what drew me in. I can't lie to you. O'Shea Jackson Jr. is a brilliant actor. I know he's Ice Cube's son, but let me tell you something. He's made his own lane after watching him. Obviously, of course, I'm watching him in what was it, Compton Streets? What am I got the name? I don't know why names be escaping me these days, but you know what I mean. The NWA almost biopic. After seeing him in that, O'Shea Jackson for me, great actor. Love seeing him in things as well. Just love seeing him in different roles. Bit like Denzel Washington's son. When I see him, amazing actor as well. So yeah, love just seeing the show and love seeing the breakdown of that show. Honestly, some great actors in this as well. So I believe I'll try and get some of the names well. But this also a young lady as well, the mum of Jace. She played Jenna Carson, and she was a single mother of Jace and also her daughter on the show. Why is her name gone out of my head? Jackie, that was it. Jackie Carson, played by Jordan Rice. But this is Chanel Azoro. Listen, let me tell you something. First of all, she's fine, and you know I like fine women. Number two, I'm loving the freckles on her face. It's a beautiful thing. But number three, she's an amazing actor and plays her role to a T. Now we're gonna have some real conversations about this single mother role because it played a big part and it made me really question some things. Gonna be honest with you, it made me question some things because the tension between herself and Coach Ike, who is played by O'Shea Jackson, there's some conversation we need to be asking. There's some real stuff we need to be talking about that needs to be said. You know, literally there was a lot that was going on, and I wish I actually watched it from season one. I wish I watched it when it first downloaded, then I would have done a breakdown each episode. But I've caught on to it a year later. But no worries, season two is coming out in June, so we definitely going to follow this show. There was also other great actors. This is Meg, the assistant of Ike, O'Shea Jackson character. She's played by Tessa Ferreira. Again, I've not seen her in many things or anything like that. So again, a new introduction for me personally. But again, another great introduction with her. She played the assistant of Ike on the show, and she contributed quite a dynamic story because her father was sick with cancer. He had done some things in the past which didn't really get to go into it too deep just yet in terms of what he actually did, and then she has this like arc of a story where I don't like my dad, but I love my dad, but then I have to kind of forgive my dad. And do you know what? That was a lot of what was actually played in this particular season. A lot of stuff was about fatherhood and the role that plays in the lives of these children as well, and so great again, acting from her and watching her growth as well in the story. We also get to see Crystal as well, and I think what I really like about this particular show is, and this is what other shows can really take advantage of, is when you have subplot stories have to end, guys. Okay, subplot stories must come to an end. Subplot stories that are underneath the main story must come to an end. This is Crystal. Her character is Crystal, but she's played by Quazan Wallace. And she, again, amazing role. She plays the best friend of Jace, the main character. And honestly, and I'll show you Jace in a second or two, honestly, her particular storyline as well, which also plays a part in this, is a beautiful thing, because she's also a basketball player. Like, I think she became number one almost in DMV as a girls basketball player, and actually ended up joining the boys basketball team. I had to even Google it. Like, I got to a point, I said, let me Google this. Is this possible? Can a girl join the under 14s team? Because they're ninth grade, isn't it? So I said, can a girl join a team? Because this I don't want to be doing things just for female empowerment sake. Like, I don't need it. We don't need it, but they can. So technically, up until the age of 14, they can actually play, as well. So again, she played an amazing role as well, and I loved seeing her in it as well. Okay, so the girl's Oscar nominated as well. Fantastic. Yeah, I'll get you on in a second, Crystal, as well. Then there was, obviously, we had Musa. Musa was, I hope I've got a picture of Musa. Yes, I have. This is Musa, innocent looking, the heartbeat of the men in the team. uh beautiful character, because he has an innocence about him, and just wants to always create the dynamic of family, and I love that. And this whole theme of family runs throughout the whole of this season as well, and he's one of the instrumental pieces in that. And even though he, halfway through the season, he's not actually there most of the time physically, but he's there on phone, his presence can be felt, and his need to bring together people is what's so beautiful. And actually, he initiates the actual contact between himself and Jace, and as well. So, and his father is also on the team. He's one of the assistant coaches as well, and you get to see a dynamic between him and his son. And again, I loved seeing it. We want to see black fathers involved in their children's lives as well. Okay, Moose is also Emmy nominated as well. Fantastic. So we've got a few nominated characters in this. Again, beautiful role played by both these two as well. Musa and his father. Musa's played by Khalil Harris. Great acting in this particular thing. And his dad is played by, I know his name, is played by, yes, Sean Anthony Baker. So yeah, Sean Anthony Baker too. Again, amazing acting from these two, and I love their storyline, because we got to see how a father, you know, imparts his knowledge and wisdom in small doses, but into his son. And again, that was amazing to see as well. So that, I love that aspect of the show as well. We also, this is obviously Jace, the main character. I'm not going to forget Phil in that. There's other characters in there, and this is the main character. We follow his particular life, Jace, and Jace is just amazing. Like, you get to see the development of Jace's character, and this is what we like to see: development of a character. Over 10 episodes, he goes from this arrogant, selfish basketball player who thinks who owns the world, to a selfless basketball player who's still arrogant, who thinks he still owns the world, but now he has the leadership skills and the ability to empathize and pull together a team around him. And so we get to see that character development. He's amazing to watch. He's Isaiah R. Hill, and yeah, it was just amazing to kind of see his growth as well, as well as the series went on. So yeah, loved watching that, and that growth from him as well. But oh sorry, I want to just show you a little something, because I put one or two clips together, and it was such an interesting kind of season as well. This is
Can't believe it, son. Now I know why you wanted me to come.
You don't know. I'm gonna tell you though. I wanted you to come today so you could see me. Like, see me. See what I'm about, okay? And here.
so this was a moment at the very end, actually, an end clip of the season, of the episodes, last episode 10, and it was great to see because I think just watching it, and you see the full arc of that storyline. Like I said, fatherhood is a prevalent theme in there, and when I get to breaking down what happened in the season, we're gonna have some real deep conversations about fatherhood and what kind of importance it has and how the show dealt with it as well, because we saw some strong fatherhood roles and I loved it. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I am sick and tired of seeing fatherless TV shows where it's women dominated. It's tiring, I'll be honest with you, and it never promotes what it needs to promote. But this particular show, we see some strong fatherhood roles. We see Ike also as well dealing with his situation with his father's loss and how what created the distance between him and his father. We're seeing uh, uh, um, Jace dealing with the fact that his father wasn't there. We're seeing also what you call it, um, Musa and his father. We get to see Phil and his father, and the fact that father wasn't great either. His father's a police officer, and how he's dealing with the fact that mum went to prison. Like it's just lovely to see. You know what I mean? It's interesting to see so many different fathers involved in this, and of course, not all of them were great. But it was interesting to see again once more. I would love to, you know what I mean? But let me bring Crystal on just so we can. I know she's got a time limit, so we can talk a little bit about the show as well. Hey, Crystal.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I just love this show. Like you were just talking about the several the dimensional characters of the show. Reggie Rock Blythewood um wrote the show. He said that the Jace's mother was the easiest for him to write because she was so strong in building up her son, and
Mm,
but at the same time, uh, I really want to talk about like, but how she kind of didn't really put as much time in, building up her
into
daughter.
a daughter. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
yes. So that really struck me, but I understand, unfortunately, because young women, and this is probably what happened to her, you know, were made to, get married, have kids, and go on. But she said, I want my son to go to the MBA. But she took time with her daughter, but didn't take as much time with her daughter that she needed to. But all of these characters, actually, Isaiah Hill and the Puerto Rican kid, they're new.
Chavez.
Yes, he wanted actual basketball players. So Isaiah Hill is an actual basketball player, and actually most of them, except for Khalil Harris and Quavajane, and the
Okay.
guy that plays, and the kid with dyslexia, um, Uzu, Ozu, sorry, he's an
Oh, so
actual
he plays Royale.
musician.
Yeah,
Yes, those three are not basketball players. Phil is a basketball player, has been playing
he's
for
very
7 years.
tall.
Well, and the funny thing is, Phil had a growth spurt. They actually had to shut down because of COVID three
That's
times.
Royale.
He
Okay.
had a growth spurt. So
I thought
so
so. Because he was huge.
yes. If you notice in the beginning of the movie, when they go to the museum, the African American Museum, he and
Yes.
Jace are the same height.
Yes.
And then by the end of the show, he had grown on Jace about 3 or 4 inches to like 6'5".
Yep. Yeah, because
So
he was much taller than O'Shea at that point. At that point, he was dominating O'Shea in terms of height as well.
yes, yes. So just there's so many dynamics of this show, and the maze. Look at the maze as and they talked about how as a young black boy, your life is a maze. One little turn and your life
Mm.
could be derailed.
Mm.
So that's why the maze is several places in the show, at several points in
Yep.
the show, the maze, because as you saw when Quavagine is her name, Quavagine
Who
Wallace,
plays Crystal? Yep.
right? She tells Jace what happened to her, and that's too much for a 14-year-old kid to handle.
Mm.
Um, and that one little turn could have messed him up. You know, they could have gotten caught, things of that nature. I don't want to tell anybody what happened, but I really want everybody to watch this show. I've been really just rooting for it to. Where's season 2? As you did, I took a deep dive and
Yeah.
I started looking at who else is reviewing the show. We've got to get people behind the show. So,
Yep.
Quavagine, this could have really messed her up as well, and it did, and that's why she's in therapy twice a week. But
Yep.
unfortunate, and I think that that's why Jace's mother doesn't. I don't want to say doesn't pay attention, but doesn't put as much effort into her daughter that she does into Jace, because
Mm.
she knows what could happen to a young Black girl. So it's very interesting, the different dynamics that's going on. This
Yeah.
young lady is an actress too. She's been in a lot
Jordan
of
Rice.
comedies.
Jackie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, but the dynamic between the mother and daughter, of course, I paid a lot of attention to that. What did you think about how strong the mother was with Ike, with O'Shea Jackson's character? What did you think about
Yo.
that?
Yo. See, and I'm gonna give you my honest sentiments when I watched it. Um, so I kind of knew it was coming, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
it is such a representation of what's actually happening right now in our community and what's being spoken about even on YouTube a lot of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had no problem with her strength, but then then you start to see how she already had a basis of literally quickly she turned against Ike. Her mistrust for men, I felt like that's where it was coming from because of the father figure wasn't there and he's disappeared,
Right.
etc., etc. I felt that mistrust then got transferred onto Ike. Not to say that Ike should be automatically trusted, but it's the fact that you're willing to dig about the end
Mm-hmm.
game situation when you sought him out, not him sought you out to coach your son.
Great point.
And so that level of turnaround that you even commandeered your daughter to go and even do even extra digging to try and get this information now to kind of I understand to put mother bear trying to protect the son, but what it became it's almost became a witch hunt now, and your personal vendetta then sifted into your son, who then had to then go and challenge his coach, which then obviously
Mm-hmm.
then they have their little tiff between the two of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then that creates a division for a few episodes, right? And
Right.
so, and then we come full circle towards the end, and this is a beautiful representation between, I think, even just relationships between men and women in actual romantic relationships. What black men and black women have been fighting across the internet is the fact that the trust issue, because it comes full circle. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I don't think he's so. How can he be so perfect? He's playing his perfect role. Da, 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 da. And then at the end, she's like, I trust your judgment.
Yes. It was almost jealousy, and
Yes.
I say that because what do you think about that? Because it was almost
Yeah.
like my son um trusts my
Values
word.
you. Yeah.
Yes, and now he's starting to value your word.
Your
With
word.
the car scene between Jace and his mother, and his mother's like, no, you need to be selfish. You need to be selfish, and then
Yeah.
Jace sticking up for his teammate. And she said, who told you that? Your coach? And he said,
Yep.
no, he didn't have to. I said, oh, Jace is starting to make his own decisions and she doesn't like that. And
Yes.
it was jealousy that, oh no, somebody else, let it be a man stepping in and um, helping my son to be a man. Helping might not be the right word. You help me out with that. But it
That's
was
right.
almost like jealousy or some type of, no, I'm the one that he needs to listen to. I've been
Mm.
there for him. But Yes, but he's 14. He's starting to come into his own. Um, he's starting to come into his own,
Thought
basically.
processes. Yeah.
And yes, and so it was almost jealousy, but it was a lack of trust. That was the foundation for it. But then it commandeering her daughter to find out information about Ike's character, about O'Shea Jackson's character, Ike. I was like, oh gosh, this is gonna be bad. This is because
Yeah.
you're getting your daughter to do all of these things, but I said all you have to do is stay there for 30 more minutes and just watch her. Just watch her and her dance. That's it. And she
Mm,
couldn't do that. And I just thought, oh, this is not going to be good because she's never going to forget those things. Her
mm,
young daughter's never going to forget those things. So it was a jealousy that another, let it be anybody, but another man stepping in to help my son make decisions on his life, and then, um, and then finding out, oh wow, he could be just a good man trying to build
mm.
his character. It could be that he's not a bad guy. But I agree with you. She sought him out. She saw him out in the very beginning, and then she's trying to find. Oh no, he can't be trusted. It
Yeah.
was very interesting. It was very interesting. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's interesting because actually when they first started, yes, she sought him out, and then Jace even rejected him at first because
Hmm.
because and again this is such a beautiful thing as well. That's why I actually really love the show because I think the deeper themes
Good
behind
point.
it is that what Ike was then representing was a strong father figure, right? But he was doing it in
Hmm.
love. Like there was no, I didn't feel like there was a heavy hand from him or he was authoritarian. A lot of Ike's, kind of things was more of a guidance, So when Jace first gets there, and it's a beautiful thing because sons and fathers reflect one another and they can see themselves in each other. So Ike can see his arrogance and his youthful exuberance in Jace, and he's trying to
Yes.
weed that out before it gets to the stage where he got to, where he's not. That arrogance can get to a point where you're overgrown, and so
Yes.
he's seeing Jace, and he's like, let me weed that out. So when Jace first comes, and they had their little matchup, they had the little
Hmm.
basketball game. 1-to-1, he actually embarrasses Jace like in the 1-to-1
Hmm.
and beats him, and you can see how Jace doesn't like that. Um, and so that's when Jace obviously says, he doesn't want to go back. But then the mom's like, no, you got to go back. Right. So that's how that first starts. And then as it kind of progresses, like you said, as Jace starts to realize, actually, this is somebody actually I can learn from, I can listen to, I can actually adhere from. And this is the kind of guidance that I've always needed. And
Hmm.
like you said, once he begins to make his decisions to kind of go towards the right, there is a jealousy that happens. And I can understand it. It's the person is no longer yielding to your voice alone. And so now you're not the sole power in that child's life anymore. He's now got other influences, which can be scary because you want to make sure your son goes the right path. You've been abandoned
Right.
by the father figure before. You don't want to see that happen again. And so that kind of energy does come into it, and you can see that as the show goes along, to a point that even towards the end, when they have the scene, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but when they have that scene where they go to play basketball against the team where there's racism,
Yes.
like what I did was commendable. Because listen, if it had not been for him and he had let Jace handle things, they could have been shot in the diner. You
Absolutely.
know, they could have been, he had to take a strong arm in that respect. But then I also understood Jason's position as well. And that's what I said about
Hmm.
Jason and Ike kind of bounce off each other and what fathers and sons actually do because they're coming from two different generations. What Ike also didn't see was and he did join him, when Jace decided to take that knee, Ike also
Yep.
decided, you know what, I'm a follow you. I'm gonna take that lead
Hmm.
as well. But he didn't like it at first, right? And I think, but that was again another beautiful thing. And we see how Ike begins to also open up when Jace is taking decisions that he doesn't potentially like run off the bus, going into the protest, and realizing, actually, you know what?
Yes.
Let me go with it. You know?
Yes. The see, episode 7 was so paramount because it also throughout the show you see that these are still 14-year-old kids.
Yeah.
Um, but in episode and also um everybody that rewatches this, there's also parts. Reggie Rock Blythewood, he has things that go along with Emmett Till was the most famous 14-year-old that of course got murdered. And
Yes.
that's what, so the diner is called Carolyn's 55 because in 1955, the woman that
Oh,
lied on Emmett Till was named
was
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
And it happened in 1955. So you'll see little pebbles throughout the movie or throughout the
Mm,
series about that. But as O'Shea said, if you yell, and he said, if we yell and scream enough, we could get something done. If you yell and scream enough, you would get killed. And
mm,
he didn't understand. And as a man, as you know, as now a 30-year-old man, you know that I just got to get these kids out of here. And
yeah. I'm a parent.
O'Shea,
I'm protecting them.
I have to protect him. Ike and the assistant coach said, I just got to get them out of
Naeem.
here, get them to stay
Yeah.
alive, and get them back to their parents. That is my sole thing I have to do right now. But those kids, and poor Phil could have gotten shot on spot. And
Bruh.
Phil's the best. He could have been shot. And it was I was like, oh my God, I was so scared at that point. But at the
Yeah.
same time, he followed them and he said, I'm going to take a knee with you because I understand. I get
Mm,
it. And that's why O'Shea took a knee after that. And he said, I understand how you feel, but I have to get you out of here. So they all took a knee. And it was really interesting. Another character, Phil's one of my favorite characters on the show because what he goes through, all of these characters, the way they built it, they just didn't build it around Isaiah Hill
yeah.
and um, O'Shea Jackson. They built all the characters have different arcs. It was really interesting because, and I think I want to ask you about Ike's wife too. What did you think about
Oh,
the pregnant woman?
l-
I want to ask you, what you think
loved
about
her.
her too? Okay.
Loved her because I think, and I loved her because, a lot of times when they do shows like this, they make couples either too corny or like, what I mean, like
Mhm.
impossible to really get behind, right? But what I loved about them too, and what I love about his wife, is that again, we talk about believing in somebody's dream, right?
Mhm.
Or a black woman supporting a black man. First and foremost, he had something going for him. So please, this is not Build a Bear. But
Mhm.
I love the fact she always gave support. Now, not only did she give support, she was intuitive, and
Mhm.
you see that with the way that her character interacts with Phil, for instance, right? She says, I just know there's something that's not right. And
Mhm.
the fact that she senses these things before it happens, or she senses that something has happened, and she's so empathetic towards that, is a beautiful thing. And I think again, it shows another side of when a union is working in good unison, because between herself and Ike, like when there's a scene between Ike, Naeem, and his wife before they're painting a room, and she comes and
Mhm.
she says something to him or whatever about, I think, Nick and the guy, and she says, "Hey, look, this is what it is," and he says to Naeem, she's right, man. She's always right. Like, and it's not in a way of, oh, uh, putting your face to almost say like, what, women are always right, but more of a case of, look, he's taking counsel. He realizes that
Right.
this at this point in time, the counsel is important to take at that given time. I'm making the decision, and I've heard Naeem, but I've also heard my wife. I think I need to take this decision. And then we see it later on when it dealt with the Phil situation, how they take him in, and how obviously she, even at one point when Phil's talking to Drew's parents and talking to
Mhm.
Ike, and talking about the dad situation,
When she
Phil is
takes him
like
away,
uncomfortable.
when she walks
Yes.
away.
Takes him
Mhm.
away and have a walk. And that again just shows that person's in tune. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's a rarity. And to see that in a black woman on TV screen is so
Yes.
important, because I think we always see that in white spaces, but we don't necessarily get to see
Yes.
that in black spaces. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And it's so interesting about that walk because she works for social services. If she
Mm,
saw the actual bruises, if he lifted up his shirt and saw the actual bruises, she has to report it. But I
yeah.
also think that and I don't know if the scene was cut out or they just didn't talk about it, because talking about the rehoming of Phil, or talking about how to get his father some counsel and
Yes. Into a
everything,
program.
instead of into a program, instead of taking him and getting and arresting him, because Phil's already lost one parent, his mother.
Yep. His mother.
And for him to lose a second, Phil didn't want to do that. She didn't want to do that. So um, I kind of hoped that they would talk about that a little bit. That if she had actually seen the bruises, she would have to report it and have to get him arrested. So they couldn't do that. So let's get him into some counseling and see. Maybe hopefully next season we'll see if Phil goes back to his father. But that her saying to Phil, you know, I had this issue with my father when I was your age too. So what's going on? And trying to pull it out of him. She's very intuitive. And I love that. And you're right. We see a lot of that in different white shows, but we don't see the different dynamics of women that we have on the show. You see of course, Jace's mother. You see even Crystal's mother. Crystal just did not think that, and Crystal's character, and
I'm so glad
of course
they believed her.
Ike's mother and or Ike's wife. Just the different dynamics of women that we have on this show are so key. And the Puerto Rican kid, and I can't remember his name right now,
Nick
his,
Chavez. Yeah,
exactly, his mother coming
beautiful
from
scene
immigrant,
when she rejected.
beautiful scene, because in my head I thought, oh no, she's gonna take this guy's. I thought that she was gonna sign the paper, and the fact that she didn't, that's huge. That's huge.
Absolutely.
So because there's so many people that take the deal, and then 5-10 years later you're wrapped up in a deal with some guy that now you can't get out of because you just see the money. You know, plenty of immigrants come here and then they're stuck. So, and the fact that she was smart enough. So there's so many dynamics of women that I love on this show. But I love the fact that Ike's wife's character. What did you think of the scene? Speaking still about Ike's wife, two scenes. Talking about Lester Johnson, Ike's rival in high school.
Oh, Lester Davis, yeah.
Yes, Lester Davis. And Ike starts to, judge himself. Like, we could have had a mansion, we could have this, we could have that, and this is not what you signed up for.
Do you know what? Again,
go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, again, great. I'm glad you brought it up because I'll be forgetting these things. But yeah, another great scene again, because it was real, right? The reality is he's feeling, at this point in time, and what I loved is that he's trying to stay true to principles at this point. Ike is trying to stay true to principles, trying to stay true to, being a good man. And that obviously then shows itself full circle at the very end when they expose what his secret was. But he's trying to do the right thing. And then so you see this, and this is where we talk about emotional intelligence in men, and also as well about if you truly love your partner, where you're doing you feel things. And one of the things that you might feel is, and generally you will, if you don't feel like you've met all your necessary goals or whatever, or there was potential to have reached a higher height, there is this conversation. And he represents so many men who are aspiring sportsmen, you know what I mean? And because sports is such a huge way of people exiting the hood or exiting the ends or exiting the thing, that is normally the parachute, or I should say the air balloon that takes people out of a situation. So now he's looking at his life and he's taking stock. He's like, yo, I had dreams that were bigger to do so much more. And I'm almost thinking to myself, this is not what you signed up for. And, almost like I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like I'm sorry. And that scene is beautiful because she doesn't let him wallow. She doesn't say, well, you see how she encourages him in that moment, and it's about, and I think she even said something about how she just loves him. And I say this all the time, that men need that. And this is why choosing the right wife is important. So men, please choose the right wife because it's important. That point, she didn't make it about basketball. She made it about how she feels about him. And that is so critical because it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. And who you are will always outshine what you do, because who you are is consistent. And he's a good man. He's a genuine good man with a good heart, but he also tries to do the right thing. And that will, in a sense, play out and benefit him in the long run. and she can see that it's gonna help. It's gonna do that. But right now, he needed that uplifting and encouragement, and I love that as well. So yeah, how
Yes.
did you take it?
I absolutely saw that because he was feeling down on himself. He's looking at this mansion and he's like, I'm working at a tool repair shop, and this is, I could have had that. But because of, and we find out later, because of things that happened when he was in high school and college after his father died, he wasn't mentally the same, and
Mm,
he has to rebuild. And sometimes men, and especially our Black men, they have to rebuild, and we have to give
rebuild.
them
Yeah.
that, be there to give them that motivation and encourage them, but still not lose ourselves and at the same time. So that's
Yes.
why I love her so much. There's another scene, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but there's another
No worries.
scene when he's talking to Phil's father. Phil's father is all just an angry Black man, or I'll say it like that. But
Mm.
he gets the help in the end. Thankful, thank you to Ike's wife, but he's angry. He comes to the door and he
Gospel. Oh,
already
you do. Yeah. Yes.
starts to snap.
Yes. This one
Ike's
here. Yeah.
wife, yes, immediately as soon as she hears it, she goes to the door
Yeah.
because she knows if he sees a pregnant woman, it'll
You gonna chill
diffuse it.
down. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I saw her do that, and just the little things that she does in this show
So
are
powerful.
huge. The reason why she did that is because in one of, I think the first or second episode, Ike slapped the coach,
Yeah, punch the coach. Yeah.
and
And
so
went to
she
prison.
knew I needed to defuse the situation. But I ask you that because what did you think of the other? So we have good Black men on here, of course, Ike, Sean Anthony Baker's character, and but then there are so many other people that you're trying to
Mm.
fight, so many other Black men that you're trying to fight. What did you think of the dynamic between the other coaches and how
Yeah.
they're? What did you think of those other coaches? And
So that was interesting because what you're talking about there is the different threats that were coming your way, his
right,
way, which was first of all, it started off slightly with Alonzo Powers, who's played by Tristan Mack Wilds.
yes,
He started off with as Gladiator. He's like an outside influence of the financial pool. And to be honest, they
mm-hmm.
actually played that character. They put they put it quite nicely because to be honest,
Yes,
these brands are a bit more aggressive. Do you know what I mean? So they did him a favor, I think. Um,
yes,
and then we had Brett Hughes, who's also the father figure of Royale, right?
oh
And you see how his money is trying to maneuver things, and you saw how Ike has to kind of shut that down with Meg because Meg is the entry point, right? Because Meg has already got
yes,
existing deals in terms of the business world. And so you saw how obviously later on we find out why Royale was even picked for the team. It's because Meg had
mm-hmm.
to keep a deal with the father, and then obviously with the other coaches, and I think it's even I think it's in the very first episode, I think it was, or second episode, where you hear the older gentleman talking to the coaches, and the coaches are like, how we gonna make money? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you see that there's a mentality about money, and you see how Ike challenges the older gentleman, I can't remember his name now, and says, "Hey, you know what? You may be you weren't much of a father figure to me. You know what I mean? Like my dad passed, but
Mm-hmm.
you weren't much of a father figure to me. And you know what what Jace actually needs isn't for you to make him a financial service or product. He needs somebody who
Right.
actually cares about him, and that's the role." That Ike is playing in this series, which is so powerful, alongside Naeem as well, playing a role of we care.
Yes, and as Black men, we have different dynamic. They have different dynamics shooting at them. So of course they have the good men, the Ikes, Sean Anthony Baker's character, and but then you also have Black men that all they care about is money. They see Jason,
Mm,
they see money, and also how and I this the gentleman, uh the older Black guy, he's kind of the mayor of the city of
mm,
for youth basketball. He comes in and he starts to infiltrate the mom. So he's
yeah,
calling her on one end, but then she's got Ike coaching Jace on another end. You understand what the
yep.
manipulation
It's
was?
so
It was, I was like, wow, she's got one guy in her ear saying that I could have helped you, why didn't you come to me, and we could put Jason in front of the right people, but all he sees is money. And then
mm,
you've got Ike really trying to steer Jace into the right direction, but all she sees is that, my son's being, pushed and pulled. And that's that maze that you talk about, that
Mm,
one false move and this could ruin his life. And I get it, as far as a woman and her being a mother, this could affect his life forever, and I have to make the right decision. But
mm,
at the same time, I'm like, wow, is she making the right decision? She doesn't. I don't know that she. Her main goal is her children, and that's
hmm.
huge. And I love her character as well.
I love a
But
character, yeah. And I think it did highlight us. William Stanford Davis, that's who it was, who plays
that's
the
it is.
character
Yes,
looking up. Yeah.
he's
Um.
also on Abbott Elementary. He's series regular on Abbott Elementary, the Quinta Brunson show.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
older
Yeah.
guy.
Yes. 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 I can see. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So his role, his role in terms of playing that kind of almost sly snake, infecting
Yes.
with poison is interesting, and I think this is going back to what we talk about this conversation that we have on YouTube quite a bit in terms of the importance of male figures and male people within a community, right? Because the very threat is male, and the very defense of that threat is another male. So
Right.
had, and this is where Ike needed to almost be above board, and in his dealings, because the threat of what was coming his way wasn't somebody punching him up. The threat was somebody else destroying his reputation and trying to underhandedly usurp somebody from underneath him and actually remove. And of course, listen, the reality was he had a program to run. It's business. And you can even see that in the beginning, Ike's business wasn't even going well. So he had to even
Right.
merge with Meg. And so the threat that was existing to him was financial, but it's also coming from a human being, another male who's looking at him and saying, "Do you know what? I need your meal ticket." You know what I mean?
Mm,
And so what it showed me is how important. That's why men have to be responsible in their dealings, because the 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 reason why Jason's mom is dealing with all of this is because there's no male in the house. So she's having
right.
to play that role as well. But when you play that role, you become hardened. But then also at the same time, the manipulation that happens between men and women, just like Adam and Eve in the garden, is very, very tricky. These men are very conniving, and he sees the
Hmm.
weakness and vulnerability and uses that against her. And so now you see how he infiltrates. Because at the beginning, she wasn't listening. She said, "Well,
Hmm.
look, hey, you know what? I don't want my son to come to you." Da, 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 da. And then when she feels like something's up, what does she go back to? The very snake that was trying to steal her son from underneath her. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like that aspect just lets you know how important men are to a community because of the protection. And so them vacating their home, like Garson did,
Hmm.
like the father figure of Jace did, is
Yes.
precisely why it's so detrimental, because you leave people
Yes.
open.
So, okay, now, what did you think of how Ike spoke to slash handled his mother? Because he almost had to uh, speak to her with a long handled spoon. He always had to like be extra nice
Mm,
to Jace's mom. He almost had to, and even his wife said, "Are you afraid of um I can't remember her name right now, but Mrs. Carson, are you afraid of Jace's mom?" And
this mom,
I
yeah.
said, yes, because of the way she handles things. And I just wonder, do you think that Ike spoke to his mother the right way? Do you think that he should have been a little bit
Mm.
harsher to her? Um,
I think he couldn't be like that because he didn't have the leverage.
mm,
First and foremost,
okay.
your program is not work. Your program is financially da yeah.
Hmm.
And you actually need Jace. He's in a position of need,
Hmm.
right? Of
Good
course, he
point.
can't be in a place where you're literally getting bamboozled with it, but he knows he's in a position of need. And so the way she's handling things, he knows that if she decides to take Jace, if he says something wrong here, she can just remove Jace from the program. And
Mm,
then all the hard work you've put in or whatever goes to pot. So he had to kind of handle her carefully in the way that he went about his business.
right.
And not do it. Of course, he's afraid of her because of how she actually held the power in their transactions. Now,
True.
had this program be going, going so well, she wouldn't have
Hmm.
had that power. You know what I mean? Yes, she can remove him, but you're like, well, I don't really mind. I've got other people here, so do
Right.
what you want, but I've got other people. And so I think again, it speaks to the power dynamics between black women and black men in our
Hmm.
community, because when you see a difference, Nick Chavez's mum, when you see Nick Chavez's mum and how she deals with Ike, you don't ever see that.
Hmm.
Even though she's gone through a hardship and she's gone through another guy trying to take advantage of her, the conversation is completely different between
Mm.
Nick Chavez's mum and Ike.
Yes.
And I think it speaks to the fact that in our community, we're having this battle at the moment between men and women. And then that was a little representation of it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I understood how she was speaking to him because Jace was on the meal ticket, but he was very talented. He's talented.
Mm. Mm.
So, and he's gonna listen to his mother. Um, he's gonna leave. He's gonna do what his mother says. But it was so interesting at the end of the show. The scene after the racism episode, after
Yes.
episode 7, episode 8, when she challenges him again, I said, "You've got to stop.
Yeah,
You've got to
baby.
listen." Yeah, I
She
mean,
called
it's
him out.
COVID. She pulled him out. Yeah, exactly. It's COVID. It's everything going on. And how dare you not pull my kids out of there? But I said, this wasn't his fate. Ike would have pulled him out. Ike would have done whatever it was to keep those kids safe. But because they don't owe them anything, but they
Mm.
went through it in that during that basketball tournament. And I feel like I said, you're angry about everything. Those kids
Yes.
are going through a lot. And I just thought, you're just angry at the world because it wasn't Ike's decision to protest. It was actually Jace's decision to protest. And
Yep.
I love Jace's scene with his mom when he said, "You do this, they're not my dad." What did you think of that conversation when he said, "They're not my dad"?
Oh
Every
wait, when he said that to who? Ike.
He said that to his mother. So,
Oh.
so when she talks to him about Ike might have been taking peyote, Ike might have been taking money,
Oh. Yes.
and said you didn't like my track coach when I was a kid. Then you didn't like my old basketball coach. And now you don't like. It's almost like every male figure. And do
It's a
we as
problem.
women? Yes. Do we as women compare? Is my question.
And I think this goes back to the original thing, not original, but and that's why I love this show. Honestly, the way we're breaking it down right now, Crystal, is so amazing. This goes back to that whole protectional piece. When we
Okay.
place women in positions where they're having to play the the person who does protection, your senses become heightened. And
Mm,
because that role is actually, I mean, of course, a mother is going to protect her cubs, but that role of
right.
she's not getting protected. So now she is now hypersensitive to everything around her, but she's entering into a world where she is physically not the strongest. And I also about this because
Ooh,
at any
interesting.
given time this can change. You know what I mean? For your
Hmm.
your life can be in danger at any given time, and she's having to wrestle with men in an arena that men dominate. You know what I mean? This isn't a workplace with other women. It's a place where men dominate, and so she's trying to also show the same kind of strength that they're showing. But the reality is, especially with men, we don't see women as equal.
Mm,
Unfortunately, we don't see women as equal. Same way white people don't see black people as equal. We don't see you as
right.
equal. So how we deal with women is different than how we deal with other men. So when you try to present that energy, it almost becomes offensive. Like, how dare you? So now you're seeing from her perspective also, her trying to be the protector, but the protector energy that she has is going overboard because trying to find a balance when it's not your role is very difficult. So now you're in a space where you don't like the coach, you don't like this person, you don't like that. And the reason being is because you're angry still at the very
Hmm.
first person who was meant to have protected you, which was, far as
Her
we know,
father, Jace's
the
father, right.
Jace's father. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The anger's still there because even when he came to the basketball game at the very end, how she looked at him, we could tell she's still
Yes,
angry.
the look. Yeah,
The look was like, this nigga.
exactly. Absolutely. I was like, ooh, that look felt. I felt that. I felt
That was
that.
scathing.
So Exactly. So I absolutely think I love Jay saying they're not my father. Ike is not
Mm,
my father. You've got to um, start to
these
trust some of
coaches.
these people that are in my
Yeah.
life. Now he's starting to come into his own, and it's not that she doesn't like it, but she doesn't trust these people. She doesn't
Yeah.
trust, and she knows as a young black boy, any one false move can can ruin
Send them
everything
off the
for him.
rails.
Absolutely. So, but him, uh, Jace finally speaking up was so key. Um, and I also think that there was a lot of saltiness to her, a lot of not vindictive. I don't want to call her vindictive, but I also think like because her and Jace got into that argument, then she didn't go to go to his game and things
Oh
like that
yeah.
that she did.
Yes. Yes. Yo, Crystal, you just oh, I forgot about it, but you literally nailed it. So
Yeah.
even this is doing a full circle to your very first question you spoke about, which was about Jace's mother and her role in terms of her daughter's life. Because
Hmm.
now she's having to be the protector. She's also kind of a lot of masculine energy, which then now, you almost kind of forget that your daughter requires her mother because
Hmm.
the daughter's actually older, So and you
Hmm.
almost forget that too when you watch it. The daughter's actually older than
Absolutely.
Jace. Um, but like you said, her over, and it's not, I wouldn't even say just over. I would say that, and this is why men and women both need to be in the life of their children, because how a boy needs a man and how a daughter needs a mother, because you understand where the person's coming from. You know what I mean? You understand the challenges that are going to be faced by the individual person, and she's trying to do the role of a father figure as a mother, and it's very difficult. But then you see, like you said, you see some character traits that come into it, like when he decides he's not doing what she's doing, she cuts now watching the game. Why?
Hmm.
You've gone to every single game, you've watched them, everything, you've even neglected your daughter at a point to focus
Hmm.
on you, so that you can focus on you and also focus on Jace. But in the moment so what she's done, she's made him a surrogate husband, and and,
Ooh.
and that is problematic, and it does happen to a few single mothers, because you've made that young boy into the man that's meant to be, but he's
Interesting.
not your man, he's your son. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
punishing him in that way, it's not there was no need for a punishment. He disagrees with what you're doing, that's fine, you can tell him. But then you, like you said, it wasn't that you forgot, it wasn't that the fact you couldn't watch it, you decided you weren't going to watch it. And this is
Right.
where, unfortunately, I'm going
Hmm.
to say it, red pill people end up. This is where the boys end up, because
Mm.
what they experience their mother like this, treating them almost like they're their husband. So they're getting punished for stuff that's got nothing to do with them, because
Hmm.
this is not how you should treat me as your son or your daughter. And do you know what I mean? Now, and then
Hmm.
this is also how
That's
you raise
interesting.
daughters to overcompensate in dealing with Build-A-Bear boys, because you didn't also invest in her and the time that she needed emotionally as well. So now Jace has come back from a basketball game. You're now being salty about the fact he didn't listen to you, and you're like, I didn't watch your
Hmm.
game.
Yeah. And he even
Wow.
says, I can't believe you didn't stream it. I can't believe you didn't watch
Yeah.
my game. I can't believe and I don't remember what she says afterwards. Are we gonna talk about Ike and what he did as a child, and she just wanted him to follow her. And so then of
Yeah.
course that puts a seed of doubt in his head. And then he's so angry. I said, now you're making him into an angry boy. Like
Yep.
you're growing an angry man. It's just that's interesting. I didn't think about this, the surrogate husband point of view, but you do have a point, because now for the next two episodes, for the next couple of weeks, Jace is angry.
Yep.
And then of course until the end, until he meets his father. I love the scene where he's crying and he's finally called, because I said, just call the coach, just call him. And that one
Uh,
conversation just changed everything.
everything.
That everything, and him crying and said, I'm so angry. And that's sometimes we need that, as black women and as black men. But the fact that she didn't go to the game, and I also think that she was really salty with the daughter for
Yeah. Oh, she
interrupting.
was over salty with the daughter. Like she was over salty. Over salty.
And it was
Yeah.
sad too. It was sad because I said, this is something you did. All you had to do was stay or change your schedule. And I get it that she's trying to grow, she's trying to build herself up. She
Her
wants to get
business.
her kids out of the hood. Totally admirable, but she just needed you to stay. And she
Mm,
couldn't do that. So her being older salty, and you're right, when you look at interviews with the daughter, who's very talented in her own right, people forget that she's the older sibling.
mm,
It was very telling. Just when Jace's mother gets mad, I'm like, wow, when you get mad, you take it out on them.
mm.
You take it out on
Which
them.
a
It's
lot
very
of parents do.
interesting, which a
Which
lot
a
of
lot
parents
of
do.
parents do. Yeah. So it's not even
Hmm.
me just saying it as a single mother. A lot of parents do this. Father figures do this, and what the children are reacting to that. We spoke about that on Love and Marriage
Hmm.
DC as well with Jamie and his son. But yeah, I mean, just even talking about that situation with the daughter, it's interesting because um I actually understood. Listen, the show's overrun by half an hour. She couldn't stay. She had a meeting with the girls. She goes to the meeting. Now the issue is how she handles it. So when your daughter comes in the door and she's vexed and angry, right? At this point
Hmm.
in time, you needed to placate her a little bit because she's
Hmm.
vexed that she's coming. And the thing is, the vexedness is not about that one night. That looks like it's been stored up for a very long time. Old girl's been cogging
Absolutely.
and winding and storing it up for a very long time because it's not like the mother wasn't helping her even learn the steps and everything. That means it's been winding for a very long time. Because when she came with all the energy. And do you know what made me laugh is that I started to see the mother in the daughter. You see that
Hmm.
anger she's got is coming from you. She's seen
Yes.
how you operate, and she's also that's how she's reacting. So now she's mirroring your energy. So when you come in, we get to see where her anger comes from. Because immediately she
Hmm.
comes in, and I'll be honest with you, in my household, and my parents, I could have never busted a door like that. So it could have never
At
run,
all.
okay? At all. That would have been shut down before I could even do anything. You'd have been beaten and in your room, like you know what I mean. So when she busted the door, angry, da 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 da, and you see the mother already respond as well. And I understand why she was angry too. Like, yo, you're not gonna embarrass me in front of people. Like,
Right.
respect the thing right now. You get me? And so they have that altercation, but it's not just there; it's after. So that the day
Hmm.
after or whatever, when they speak appropriately, when everyone's gone, instead of her saying, "Look, do you know what? I'm sorry. Because I can see how I go to everything that Jace does and I don't miss it, and I've missed one of yours. How this can may look like I didn't really care about you, but I do. You know what I mean? It overran, and unfortunately, I wanted to make sure did it, and that's how it should have been. And she should have taken a few hits, but instead of taking the
Right.
hits, she didn't. And that's where the issue's coming from. That issue that she was inflexible in those moments where, in
Hmm.
really just taking a few hits to try and listen to what her daughter is
Yes.
saying in that moment, she wanted to impose and tell her daughter, "No, I'm trying to take us out of the hood." So, and that's where, when you have the father figure involved, it kind of takes that glean off because usually that's what the father
Hmm.
does, and then you got the other parent who can be a bit more of a soft landing. She has to play
That's
both
right.
roles. So I do
She has
have
to play.
some sympathy.
No, good point. She has to play both roles. She does no room to play the soft side. Like she has to
Mm,
play the disciplinarian and the nice, sweet mom. And she there was no room for her to be soft. And
yeah.
I totally agree. In that point, she said, "Your show was late." And I'm not going to stop with my life for you. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, she shouldn't have said that line.
So
That was mad.
that was because at that point the daughter had been investigating Ike for her. The
Doing
daughter
all the
had been
stuff.
doing all the stuff, and I also love the quiet moments in this show. There was a lingering camera when the mom Jace had a horrible basketball game after he did what he did to the girl that was messing the the girls coach.
Yes. Yeah.
He and the other two guys, Phil and the white kid is a great actor in Australia. He's an
Oh, is
Australian
it?
actor. Yes.
Okay.
After
Trying
they
to
had a
do my.
horrible game,
Hmm.
Jay says, "Can we go get wings?" And she was like,
Oh
"Okay,
yes.
sweetie, we'll go get wings." The camera looking at Jace's sister Jackie, like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So he has a horrible game, and we get to go get wings. And so there are these little nuggets that the show shows how she neglects the daughter, but puts all the attention to the son is so key in this show. And how that dynamic is going to affect Jackie when they get older,
Mm,
when she gets older, as a
yeah.
woman. So it's so interesting.
I hope they
It's-
continue, or at least have some continuity in terms of the effects of how that plays out. Because I know that in June when they do release season 2, apparently they've done it, I think, a year or two ahead. They're in high school now, so I really hope that
Yes.
obviously that there's a continuity of that, because that would be really beautiful to kind of see. There's a continuity
Hmm.
in terms of the effects of that parenting and how it affects both of them, because in some shape or form, Jace has been pampered, right?
Right.
He's been pampered. He's been made the star of not only the basketball team, but of the household. And
Yes.
also the
Good
daughter
point.
has taken a back seat in
Hmm.
that, right?
Hmm.
And so her shine has been reduced. She's always
Yes.
playing the supportive role. So how does that affect her when in 2 years' time, when she's now left alone, or not left alone, but going to high school? You're trying to figure out yourself. There's boys approaching
Hmm.
you. Because this affects how you deal with relationships. She's always going to try and play either as a more supportive role, or she can go completely all the opposite end. More than likely, you'll end up playing a more supportive role, but that often puts you in places where you're in deficit and you're dealing
Yes.
with people who don't really respect you and like you, but you just want to be liked. You know what I mean?
Right. And so it's so interesting you say that, because that argument between the mother and daughter after she missed the dance, she said, "You don't make any money in this household." And I said, "Oh my gosh, Jackie's gonna try to go get a job on her own. She's gonna try to
Mm-hmm.
do everything on her own because because she has no support from her mother, and
No
something's
voice.
gonna happen." That's what I started to think. Like you said, she's gonna go the other way because
Mm.
she feels like she doesn't have the support from her mother, or the support that she needed. So she's going to um, go off. Not, I don't want to say off the rails, because I just don't picture her going
Yeah, I
off
don't
the
think she'll go off the
rails.
rails.
But
Yeah.
as a woman, she's going to say, "Okay, well, I can't count on you, so I'm going to go make my own money, or I'm going to go, do my own thing, and something may happen." That's what I'm wondering. I know
Mm.
that the full cast is coming back. I was looking for specifically Khalil Harris, the kid that
Okay.
because of COVID, all of his um all of his scenes were virtual, and I said, I'm so glad, one, that they brought him back, because they said the full cast is coming back, but in the previews I didn't see any scenes with him, but that doesn't mean anything. He's coming back as well, so I just think that, how are they going to change the dynamic with the mother and daughter? I'm just wondering for sure. And how are they going to affect, because now, like you said, they're all in high school, and he's now had to um now, is he still wearing a Swagger jersey? Is he now on a high school team? What's going on? What's going on with it?
Mm.
It's so interesting. Because I do see Jackie trying to, become her own woman.
Person. Yeah. And that's going
Yeah.
to influence, even, like, I mean, of course we're talking about fictional characters, but that's going to really tap into even how she deals with relationships, because
Hmm.
the mom is actually birthing herself in Jackie. And what I mean by that is that the independence, because now you're saying, because what she inadvertently said in that scene, what you just said, is she literally just said, you don't have a voice in this family because you don't earn no
Yes.
money. So now what happens, like you said, she now goes to earn money so she can have a
Hmm.
voice. But now that earning money becomes part of your independence. So what happens when you meet a guy, right? And he's trying to say, "Hey, look, in this family, I'm supposed to be, quote unquote, the leader, a leader of this family."
Hmm.
You ain't gonna have it, because what you're gonna assume is, I've seen what a leader looks like, and I see how they quieten my voice. So you're not about to do that to me. Do you
Yep.
see? So then that's where the tension begins between men and women too. And we don't know what trauma he might be coming with. Why he's even drawn to her.
Right.
So then that's how these things play about, and then we create a trauma cycle that goes through generation to generation. So yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. Oh my gosh, you're creating yourself, and she doesn't see that.
Mm,
She doesn't see that, even in the small scenes with the father figure, but when he leaves Jason, and I really wanted to ask you, what did you think of the last scene when he says that he's going to see a friend for a couple of days, and then of course he moves to Florida and never comes back? He's the
Mm,
last scene. She says, "You ain't ish" to him as he walks out the door. The
yeah,
I was like, oh gosh,
the
that was the
repeating
last
cycle.
thing that right. That's the last thing that Jace hears. That's the last thing, and Jace sees, of course, a strong woman, um,
Yep.
all
So
his life.
he potentially too going to have those expectations of what a woman's going to be like. She should be strong,
Hmm.
like and that's why I said that the man not and we haven't spoke about even the father figure in this role in this particular thing because we didn't see him for a few episodes, but his lack of absence on the show is a lack of absence in
Hmm.
his child's life. It's correlating, and obviously his impact is so huge. You
Hmm.
come back into your child's life and you don't have anything else but to say, but you know what, you know what I mean? And he
That's
had it,
it.
and that's like Jason, he had excuses rather than taking accountability and saying, "Do you know what, I fucked up, and
Right.
you know what, you deserve to blame me."
And he did put everything on his mother. And we've been talking about the strong mother woman dynamic and the strong mother, but he still made excuses and he put everything on Jace's mom. He didn't. He
Yep.
could have said, "I messed up. That has nothing to do with your mother and I's
Hmm.
interaction or relationship. Has nothing to do with me trying to have a relationship with you and your
Yep.
sister. I should have done better, and I didn't." He never did that, and he was just like, oh, I and him saying, "Oh, well, I checked in with a couple of friends of mine, and they made sure that you
Said you're
guys were
doing
doing
good.
well." That would make
Some
no
bullcrap.
difference to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that he at least called coach and said, "You've been more of a father to me that my father has ever been." And that all of these scenes, they're just huge, is the talking about young black men and women and how their life can be affected by just one thing that's happened to
Decision.
them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, the scene with Jason, his father, and him saying that he just didn't want to get into it. I didn't come and see you because I didn't want to get into it with your mother.
Mm.
That's an excuse. So
That's not a very big excuse. Because you didn't write, you didn't do anything, you didn't do any of that kind of stuff.
right.
I'm not saying that he didn't face what he faced because we can see how the mother is. I'm not saying he didn't face what he didn't face, but again, this goes back to
Hmm.
our conversation we had the other week with men and seeing their kids. And if you felt like it was that bad, you go to court. You didn't even bother doing that. You started a whole nother family,
Right.
and left those two kids. You just literally abandoned the project. It's like, yo, but bro, they're not a project. They're your kids. They're human beings. They have lives. They bleed. They live and they die. They breathe. They eat. So
Hmm.
like this is not a project. This is not a building you can leave. When you go to Ghana, sometimes you see people have started the building but they don't finish. This is not a project building. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is
Right.
the life of your kids who are your own DNA, and
Hmm.
you just vacated the building. Now the issue is again that says a lot. That tells me a lot about you, that you can vacate the building and not even check up on your kids. You're not sending them messages. You're not checking up on them. You're not fighting for them. You know what I mean? It took your daughter to reach out to you before you
Yes.
decided to even do anything, and that in itself was problematic. You know what I mean? Like you owe those kids an apology. You owe the mother an apology.
Hmm.
Like you can't just say I had people that were checking up on you. Like, well, if they can check up on you, why don't you try to communicate? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. I also the mother. She was so upset. I also think that she was kind of more upset with Jackie because when
Yeah.
they found out that the father was in Florida, and that's one of the reasons why he wanted to go to Florida, she was so mad, and because they wanted to
Very
find their
mad.
father, and
Very
I
mad.
said, this is, and it's almost like she felt like, I haven't been everything for you, and of course you
Yes.
have, but
Oh no,
that's
no,
still
no.
my father. That was very interesting. That was very interesting. Yes, we still want to find our father. Yes, we still want to know him, and we want him to know us. That's it. That's
Mm,
really it. So, yeah, there were so many um mountains in this show. There are so many
yeah.
things in this show that we can just pull apart. We can pull apart.
Honestly.
Um, yes, I'm glad you took
So
a
we
look
can't
at
wait.
it. I, I can't wait for
Season
June.
two.
I can't wait.
Season
Season
two.
two.
June. Season 2 June. You know what I mean? So we'll definitely dive into that. I don't know if there's any more shows that you guys have outcome. I would like to get ahead of it, the curve. Not, I like to know before, because it's been a year. This show's been out. I was like, what, a whole year?
Yes.
I didn't even know. So yeah, great show. So yeah, if anyone hasn't watched it yet, guys, and you love the conversation, go ahead, watch Swagger. You know, if you need a site to go to, just privately message me. I got you. Okay. So you can watch it because it's on Apple TV. So yeah.
Thank you, Kojo. Thank you for checking it out. And well, we got stuff to talk about tonight with Mavs. So
Baby, exactly. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm gonna watch it now.
okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
we'll get onto it. All right, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you, Crystal, for joining me as well. I know you had
No
20
problem.
minutes.
Thank you.
We went we went long.
We went way over.
But
I gotta go to work.
yeah, yeah. All right, guys. Be easy. We'll appreciate you guys. We'll see you again very soon.
Thank
Much
you.
love.
Bye, Kojo.
No
See you
worries.
later.
Bye, Crystal.